Hello, this is JP and Rohan, your non-geek, non-nerd hosts, and you're watching.
Absolute game of.
That's our new fun little introduction, but let's have Rohan introduce our newest guest for our 30th episode.
Today we have for our 30th episode, we have Sergio, also known as Monster in the Iron Mask. You may follow him on Instagram. He is a huge Doctor Doom and Fantastic Four collector. He's someone I've met as I've gotten a little bit into cards. He's obviously more than a card collector, as we'll discuss. But just a great guy to chat with and good friend I've made in the community. So Sergio, say hi. How you doing?
What's going on, guys? How are you? It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sergio, we always start with kind of the origin story for yourself. So not necessarily when you just got back in, but maybe like start back when you were a kid, if you like this kind of thing, or however it is when the love first started for this stuff.
Man, I was born in like 87, and as far as like childhood memory, like what you kind of like retain as a child, like what you actually do remember, I for sure remember like, 95 X-Men. My cousin used to collect a little bit of Ghost Rider, not too much, but it's just like kind of like a nostalgia, like, hey, like, I knew that this stuff was around. I knew that the X-Men existed for sure. I wasn't a big Fantastic Four fan like then, but it's my nostalgia is mostly to like X-Men and Spider-Man and like, the normal stuff for someone that I think born like around like my time, like 87. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of started with that. As far as like, having as a child something that I used to watch, like that was like my favorite. That's what you look up to, like, to watch like those like cartoons on that day off. You're like, man, I'm excited for this week's like episode. And unlike now, we didn't have TiVo, we didn't have any of that stuff. So
yeah,
there was no rewinding time. You either were there for it or it's kind of missed out.
Yep. Yep.
So
totally.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
It for sure started with that.
Or you might have recorded on your VCR, right? If you recorded on the VCR, you might have been able to watch it again,
Yeah, but that's the thing. You don't know what kind of situation was going on. Maybe somebody else had like, a time slot picked out at home, So
I remember because X-Men, all those cartoons you mentioned are what both JP and I grew up on as well. And I remember for us, the X-Men cartoon would be at 10 a.m. on Saturdays. And there was a couple times I remember when my parents like planned something. And I was like, "You got to be kidding me! Like, are you like
just leave me?
Yeah.
Go by your own."
I remember being just so outraged at like this idea of like missing this 30-minute episode. Mm-hmm. But yeah, totally.
I used to get mad. Voltron was the comic or the cartoon I watched, and I had to go to swim lessons or something. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I want to finish Voltron. I love that. I love that cartoon. It was a good one.
Yeah. So then take us down the line. So you watched it as a kid, growing up. How did this all evolve?
Yeah, and then like two years ago, maybe like 2.5 years ago, during the pandemic, kind of bored. I had like no knowledge of like cards. I had like really no knowledge of like comics. Like I think we talked about it, second prints, third prints, like zero knowledge. Just kind of stepped in like fresh, and made a few mistakes along the way, and just kind of learned pretty quick, and the focus became like really like pinpoint to kind of like what I want, instead of like wasting money on like little silly stuff or some things that don't make sense like monetarily. Stuff that me and you have talked about, Rohan, like with cards, and like there's a lot, and the card market's weird. The comic market I think is a little bit easier, right? Because it's just like straightforward. There's a lot of comps, there's a lot of comic sales, but with the cards, like when something comes up for sale or someone's asking like $500-600 for a card, and you're just like, man, like, but the entire market's down, but you're trying to premium charge me for this. It just doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just like I just got into like the imagery, man. Like I just got into like the older art and just like seeing things that just reminded me of like childhood, right? Like seeing some of these like key covers that everyone kind of like knows and love, and I started just buying like base cards of like the characters I like, the Carnage, Venoms, the Spider-Mans, like I'm a big fan of the symbiotes. I don't like to say it publicly because people start getting a little crazy ideas and thinking I'm collecting Miles Morales and stuff, which is not true.
You can't say that publicly.
No, I can't say that publicly. I get bashed for that. And it's always the argument with Miles is always like, and it's pretty simple to me. Like when everyone like talks about Miles, right? It's just that's what you call him. It's Miles. It's never Spider-Man. You never call him Spider-Man because in your mind, Spider-Man is someone else.
I said this exact thing. I was on right after I saw the movie. I was on Justin Spidey Hits channel. We were talking about Peter Parker versus Miles Morales, and I said the exact thing. I said, we all know Peter Parker as Spider-Man, but we know Miles Morales as Miles Morales. So.
Yeah, and I think it was just kind of like one of those when I kind of like got into the cards and I kind of started learning a little bit more about the market. Doom comics were already expensive, but it had great like Jack Kirby art in the early ages or early stages on, and even John Byrne. I'm a big fan of John Byrne covers with Dr. Doom on it. So it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like I kind of gravitated toward it, and he's a villain, and he just pops up everywhere. He's all over the place. So. I don't do it for like spec purpose or like, I think maybe the Avengers, and him will meet up. So I want the cover for that. Like, I think that's just kind of silly way to look at collecting. I've seen a lot of people lose money that way. We have a lot of pages that, make fun of those kind of situations like Josh's comics. I think he's great. He's always making those funny memes.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like what it became. I think after the whole, like, let's get everything graded kind of situation. Like that's like the world we're living in now where everything is graded. It just kind of changed the way that people look at the market, and everyone wants like their premium on something that some things may just not be as rare as we think they actually are. Oh yeah. So
what was it? So it was the art then that drew you to Doom?
Oh, definitely. It was I was talking to Johnny Bravo. I don't know if you guys know Johnny Bravo, man, but he's a big Wolverine collector. And, he does a lot of like drawing, and I was telling him like, man, like, Jack Kirby's art is so simple, but look how many people don't like do well trying to replicate it, even though it looks so simple. Like it looks like it's, like he just like kind of sketched it out really fast, and he did, but that's just his style. And I'm just a big fan of like Jack Kirby esque looking Dr. Doom and Fantastic Four.
So Sergio, Kirby is also my favorite artist, but you don't know, you've just met JP today. JP does not like Jack Kirby, which I think is absolutely insane. He doesn't like that kind of the style that you're talking about. JP doesn't. He's more of a McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee kind of guy.
Oh man, listen, I respect to all the artists out there. I don't even think Rob Liefeld is in the conversation of next to Todd McFarlane and Jack Kirby, man. Like those two are closer in conversation than Rob Liefeld is.
I don't think you're alone.
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of.
I don't think you're alone. I don't think you're alone in
that claim. Liefeld's early stuff was good, was his best stuff. His more recent, maybe he's gotten better, but I think he got sloppy in the middle, and he had a lot of bad covers. But he has a lot of iconic covers from the 90s that, that bring back that nostalgia phase for me. But I would put McFarlane, I would put Jim Lee, I would put Byrne, who else were we just talking about?
You like John Buscema.
Yeah.
Buscema, we have
Big John for sure.
Ramita, Byrne, and then who did the other? Milgram did some decent covers, and then Zek. So you got a bunch of like decent 80s guys you can talk about. But I have a book I'll pull it out. It's called How to Draw Marvel Comics, and I think it had Buscema and Ramita or Kirby.
There's like a little Doom on the bottom like right corner, right, of the comic.
Yep,
it's kind of hanging out. Yeah.
And I always went right past the Kirby ones because I just couldn't stand how he drew the faces, and I went right to the Buscema stuff.
See, I'm the opposite. I love Kirby all day, every day would be my favorite.
I can appreciate the iconic. I can appreciate what he gave to the comic book industry and to Marvel and to DC and name it PC. He was with that other comic company for a while, so I can appreciate that. If I had my choice to pick my favorite cover, one of his wouldn't be on there. So
that's cool.
But
that's totally fine. Like I think I like to hear like the other side of the coin. I don't want everyone to agree with me. I want you to be like, no, man, Jack Kirby's like, 3, and number 3, number 4, number 5, not even top 10. Some people say, there's a lot of good artists out there, man. There's, some people would say like some of the Frank Miller, Franzetta stuff. Like, we're talking about like just kind of Marvel, DC, but there's a lot of people that do a lot of different styles of art out there that are very good.
Adams, another good one too.
Adams, of course.
So Sergio, as a Doom collector, you do automatically what JP was talking about, and you knew there was Doom on it. So I assume you have that same how to draw Marvel Comics book in your collection.
Yeah, I have that one.
Yeah, so
it's a fun book.
Outside of cards and comics, you collect anything kind of Doom related, right?
Yeah, Pretty much, man. Like I have like stickers. I have stamps. I picked up some posters. Some of those like comic shop news, like the advanced comic stuff, like the preview stuff. It's just fun to like look into, because that's the thing, man. Like I think that when you kind of like do a little bit of character collecting, right? You start picking up your cards, and I never picked it up with the intent of trying to like hit 10s and 9s and like just try to like jump mint this like master set. I didn't even know I was going for it, to be honest. Like I just kind of like started picking up like here and there a couple base cards and stuff like that, and obviously the comics were kind of like in the mix, and kind of like when you reach a point where there's a couple things left, and it's like the bigger stuff, you're like, and we've talked about this between me and you. It's just like one of those things where sometimes you find stuff that is a little bit more rare than the stuff that people consider valuable. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I kind of like look that way. When everyone's looking left, I go right. So I pick up other things, and the market does whatever it does. But there's certain things that legit, like if you look at the history on any like sales and comps, like some stuff just doesn't pop up very often, and when it does, like I'm just kind of like lurking in the back trying to snipe these either like bids or like OBOs or whatnot. So it's always fun, man. Like that, but the best part of the hobby, I mean, yeah.
There it is.
Oh man, yeah. The Doctor Doom stuff is fun, but to me, it's about the hunt. It's about hunting on eBay and like these different platforms, try to find some pretty rare stuff out there, man.
So you've got
this. I wrote in here, don't draw like Jack Kirby somewhere in here. Just kidding.
Oh man.
Just messing.
What's your character?
I
like if you had to pick one. Okay.
If I had to pick one, it's Spider-Man, Punisher, or Wolverine.
Okay.
So one of those three.
And do you have like certain artists that you like? If it's Batman, is it Jim Lee for Batman? Is it Todd McFarlane for Spider-Man?
That's all McFarlane on the wall there.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see it, but yeah. So that's all McFarlane stuff. So if I had my choice, I would buy every McFarlane Spider-Man I could find, and then any other book he's drawn. So that'd be my top. So yeah.
I love the spaghetti webs. I think that that was such a thing that I remember as a kid, like the spaghetti webs for like McFarlane. I mean, I remember as a kid, my cousin, since he was older than me, he would like drag me to the theater, and we'd be watching like Spawn, and we'd be watching like the rated R like Marvel stuff back in the day. So yeah, man, for sure.
I've watched McFarlane draw on his. He has some probably $14,000 computer system to draw with, right? And I like to draw too. I was fairly decent, but drawing those webs on Spider-Man's mask was always difficult to do. And watching, trying to get those lines to connect on the mask itself, and watching McFarlane just fly through it, just kind of like you said, Kirby, his style is his style, right? It just comes out. People can't replicate it, and McFarlane can just do, and he does his Spider-Man like it's the back of his hand, So.
Yeah, man. Watching these guys work, you got Bianchi doing like live stream, like painting watercolor on his live. It's just crazy, man. This guy's legit, like the maestro. Like he's when it comes to like the darker. I think Bianchi does like those really darker images really well. And sometimes depending on the angle, man, he nails it, and sometimes it's not so much a hit, but like still like it's you got to respect what it is, because the guy's a wizard with the paintbrush. It really is.
JP, do you know who he's talking about? Simone Bianchi?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. What's
So he's an artist going now, and he did, is it 2018 Marvel Masterpieces, Sergio?
Yeah, he did 2018 Marvel.
Yeah, and so he's done a lot of Marvel work, and it's incredible stuff. Like you can look him up online. It's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, like go on his reels and stuff, and like check out his page, and he's got some Wolverine like live watercolor paintings. It's very cool to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I think I watched Clayton Crane draw a couple on his reels. So
Clayton Crane's very cool.
Yeah. So okay, yeah, I'll definitely check them out.
So Sergio, as you have this Doom collection in your house there that we can see, we don't see it now, but is there like a Doom shrine somewhere or anything like that?
No, man. I'm actually in the process of moving, so the Doom shrine's being taken down for now.
Oh, okay. But there
you
is
you see a long box over there, and that's one of the two.
So is there going to be another future Doom shrine, or is it all kind of just stay boxed?
Oh, definitely. No. There'll always be a Doom shrine. Definitely. Yeah.
Nice.
But no, when I move here in the next like couple weeks, whatever, like I'll put it back up, and I'll probably start streaming from there because I usually honestly been in the hobby for like 2 years. Usually don't do a lot of like streaming. The NSDC stuff is just pretty much audio. And early on, you guys probably you probably never seen it around. You probably haven't been like around long enough. You have to like dig a little bit, but there's a couple of files, the Marvel Pack Fresh stuff, the NSDC podcast, like the Marvel After Dark stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there, like content that happened like in between like 2 years ago and now that was like pretty cool, and nobody else is really doing it.
So talk about tell us what is NSDC. Talk about all that. What is that?
The NSDC, it's basically non-sport and diecast. It's just a couple guys having conversation, to be honest. Like,
so it's you. Who else is in there?
Elusive Collectibles.
Yep. So Elusive, we're gonna have Elusive on the show in a couple weeks here as well.
Yeah, and Elusive for sure. As far as like what I would say, like, hey, like a collector bringing you in and accepting you like with open arms. Out of all the people in the hobby, really, like even to today, all the people that I know now, like he was always like one of the most open hands. Like, hey man, like look at this stuff, look at that stuff, because some people try to gatekeep information, some people try to not show people things, and sometimes that's what makes it really hard for some of these early on collectors if they're starting off something that they don't even know they're starting it, right? Like you don't know that you're starting a collection. It's kind of like I think it just kind of happens, right?
So would you say Elusive's been kind of a mentor almost in your collecting?
Yeah, you can kind of say he's a mentor,
Nice.
You can kind of say he's been a mentor with like the Marvel card stuff, and it's been cool because along both of our paths, right? Like Elusive's growth exponentially, and he's picked up a lot of like he's a lot of very cool stuff, and his collection is pretty dope, man. Like low pop stuff and rare stuff, and that's kind of like what he goes for is like that rare, the more rare high grade kind of situation, and I kind of like went another way too and just kind of learned about comics. And I mean, hey, like, the student taught the master something, and I taught him a couple of things about comics, and he's been picking those up. And I like seeing him do that because he's expanding his horizon, Like it's not just like a focus on like just cards. I like that he's picking up and looking at other things.
Yeah, he and I have talked about, because I have seen comics a lot more than I do cards, and so he and I have had a few chats on comics as well. So. Yeah. But yeah, he's been great. I mean, for cards, he's definitely schooled me a lot in a lot of the ways of collecting. So he's been very helpful.
And what's he collecting? Is it simply any card, or is it one particular character?
He has what we call sagas. So like he'll go on a rage for like Wolverine for a couple months, and then he'll do a little Gambit, a little Silver Surfer.
One thing I heard him say, JP, that I thought was really cool, and we'll talk about this obviously when we have him on, but he said his like ideal collection would be if you were to start a museum of Marvel and you had all these collectors or all these characters, he wants the top 3 like art depictions of each character. And so that's kind of how he builds his collection. Obviously he has more than 3 things for lots of characters, but like that's kind of how he models his collection.
So original art type stuff, or
no. So this was all card related. So like,
okay.
So take Silver Surfer. He's got his top 3 favorite Silver Surfers in his collection. He's got more than 3, obviously. Wolverine. These are his top 3 Wolverines. That's in his collection. Spider-Man, same thing. All the various characters that he collects. He kind of like has that approach to it.
Yeah. And it's hey man, like it's a good approach because sometimes like if you did that with comics, you know what I mean, like you could. There's been many ways like I've thought about it. It's just like man, like if you pick up these 3 comics, you could trade in 2, trade up on another one. Like there's an algorithm to this kind of this collecting thing. Like if you do it right, you can keep things that other people want, and trade with friends and stuff like that, and keep the stuff that you like. Yeah. So collecting's been very cool, man. It's definitely been. I wasn't collecting before, like 2.5 years ago. So
at all.
No, not at all.
Nope. Yeah.
I was also surprised to hear. I would have assumed you were a Doom fan as a kid, so I was surprised to learn today that you picked him up, as you got back into collecting.
Yeah. I just that there was like man, I can't even tell you like hey, it was like one thing or the other. It was just kind of like, he's one of the badder villains in the Marvel hit comics, man. So
I mean, I think it's safe to say he's the baddest villain there. I mean, like you said.
I'm trying to stay humble here. I'm trying to stay humble. I don't want to say.
As you said, what's great about Doom is that he does pop up across the entire Marvel universe, right? So like Magneto, for instance, is great, but Magneto is primarily in the X-Men kind of world, right? Thanos is great, but Thanos is kind of in the cosmic realm, whereas like Doom, Doom is in Luke Cage books, for crying
Doom will
out
fight
loud.
Daredevil.
Yeah, he's in Daredevil books. Like he's at street level, he's at cosmic level, he's at like he's an awesome. He's, in my opinion, there's no badder villain in Marvel, like for sure.
He's probably the most iconic because what you probably find are a lot of that are nostalgic pieces that have him from the 60s and 70s because he was probably the face of the villains for Marvel. I mean, who else would they have used? I mean,
Well, yeah, like that sketchbook that you just showed, JP. There's a lot of these like old school like Marvel Mania, like books and things like that they used to make, and it would have all the superheroes on it, and the only villain they'd ever have on it was Doctor Doom.
yeah, probably Doom or Green Goblin. Those be your two, right? Probably the biggest two.
Well,
Maybe some of Spider-Man's Rogue.
Yeah, and then I would say Magneto in there too, but like Doom was the one that kind of crossed over with everything.
No. Yeah, but I mean, when they use stuff, they probably use Doom a lot, and I think maybe Green Goblin as well. But is that the only villain that you are a fan of, or is there other ones across the entire collecting?
I mean, it's me being a Doom collector doesn't mean I don't like some of these other characters for sure. Like Magneto's one of them. I mean, as far as like X-Men, Mr. Sinister for sure. Like he's a really dope character. Not a lot of people talk about him all the time. I think he always kind of gets overshadowed by Magneto, and I understand it. I get it, but Mr. Sinister's a cool character. Some people, but again, starting off with cards, and then kind of as you evolve as a collector, you kind of realize that some people, don't know too much of a lot of the comic stuff. They just kind of collect the cards. And that's okay. But it's like one of those things where it's like, I think it's important to know a little bit of the history too of the comics to understand some of the imagery, because some of the imagery is iconic on some of these cards. And to kind of make that connection, I kind of like learning about both.
On that note, so you briefly mentioned, and you and I have discussed this at length quite a few times, one of your favorite things and maybe the best joy of all of this is the research, the digging, the hunting. Talk us through your process when it comes to finding your pieces.
Man, it really just depends on the way the wind is blowing, man. To be honest, it's not like I'm like, oh, I have a plan of attack before I start going on eBay. Sometimes you go down some rabbit holes and you find some just some pretty random stuff, and you're like, $9, I'll take it. You know what I mean? $10, I'll take it. So. It's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, you see little niche stuff that people don't even really pick up. And, even now, I see some people in the hobby picking up, business cards and little stuff like that. And I think it's fun. I think it's different, it's not your standard PMG, because again, going back 2 years ago, PMGs were the craze. That's what everyone was talking about. And, I think it got boring in the hobby really fast. People just don't want to hear about PMGs for the next 6 months. We want to see cool stuff. We want to see stuff that's different. We want to see stuff that, makes people think, and kind of do their own, again, I tell you, do your own research and just kind of go through your own flows and, look up. I mean, it depends, right? It depends on who you collect, but, I'm looking up promo cards and stamps and, color books and stuff like that. And, I posted some of the stuff online. Thankfully, the seller posted some of the images inside, but it's just kind of one of those things that when I saw the image inside, I told him, I was like, I kind of have to get it, right? I should get it because there's only one or two online. There's no real sale history behind it. And hey, the seller could post 200-300 tomorrow, to try to sell all these off. And that's still cool. Whatever. With no sale history, and it's kind of old from the early 70s. It's just something fun. It's something different. And, it wasn't breaking the bank with a big card or a big comic as well, Yeah. Sometimes comics can break the bank as well.
Oh no, they can all break the bank. There's no doubt about that. So JP was kind of fun.
I was going to say breaking the bank on Elite Comics today. They had I think it was a 0.5 or a 1.8 Fantastic Four #5. Still $8,000 for a 0.5 or a 1. I was like, holy crap! I can imagine what a mid grade is.
That's a little. I think you get a 1.0 for about 4,000 to 5,000 right now.
Yeah, I think that's I think 4K,
Yeah.
I still 4K for a 1 or a 0.5. It's like holy crap.
I hear you, man, and I feel you.
I mean, think about like a AF 15.5 is still around like 12K. So, but JP, I was gonna
All
say
right,
one
$5
thing.
grand. You're right, $5 grand for 2.5.
OBO or best offer?
No, this is $5
Straight
grand
up?
for Elite.
For 2.5, that's actually a good price.
That is a good price.
Yeah.
I saw another one for more than that, but sorry, go ahead.
JP, I was gonna say one thing. It's kind of funny talking about the hunting and the digging. So Sergio is in the Miami area, and I'm obviously over here on the West Coast. And I remember one night I saw something. I was like, "Oh, I should send this to Sergio." And it was like 11 o'clock my time, and he like replied back to me. So it was like 2 o'clock in the morning there, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm off work, so I'm on the eBay rabbit hole." And I was like, "Jesus!" So he's like, "I'm a late night owl, just going down the rabbit hole."
That's it, man.
Just looking. Yeah, it can definitely happen.
Yeah, I mean, and there's times where like you go, a little hard in the paint. There's sometimes where you you take a break and you kind of like refocus. Sometimes things pop up and you're like, no, like you have to like put something away for this, and it's special, and it kind of just negates everything else. There's a lot of special stuff that has come up in the past couple weeks, and I'm like, man, like this is really cool, and I'm gonna be a little patient because I don't want to let too much pass by, but I'm gonna go for a couple of big pieces that I've seen out in the wild.
On that note, do you mind? We've pulled out. You said you were going to pull out a couple pieces to show. Why don't you show off a couple things?
Listen, so I'm going to show one off for you, and I'm sure you have this, but I'll show out. Everyone's showing off like these foreign books.
Yeah.
And this one is, I want to say it's Dutch. I think it's like the Dutch version, and I think that's a really cool cover.
It's a great cover. Great cover.
I know Elusive has the Vengadores, the La Prensa, so that's really cool. I'm a big fan of this cover, and I don't really know. Honestly, I bought this. This came in a lot, so when I bought like a couple comics I was looking for, like this was in the lot. I don't really know what to do with it at this point. Like
you didn't know it was in the lot, or you knew it was there.
No, I knew, but I didn't have like a game plan. I'm like, I'm going to like grade it and do all this stuff. But I guess I'm kind of seeing what this whole foreign comic market's kind of doing, because some people, I don't think there'll be another like 30K or for how much is that sale? Like 30K for that Spider-Man Gwen book?
Yeah,
I don't think that was a separate story though.
Separate story, but I don't think like we'll have another like huge sale like that. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
I don't think
that was
so
like
too.
one of like a one-off.
Yeah, when you look up like foreign comics, like the value definitely is not there. So if you can find them for steals, that's great. And I think and that cover still carries over regardless of what edition.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
There were some Whitman books that came out in the 70s for Star Wars. They were Whitman and Whitman reprints, and they were printed out at the same time in the 70s. So to me, it's a much cheaper way to own like Star Wars #1. So the book you had there, if it was around the same time or 20 years old, that's still you're holding like history there. It's not like it just got reprinted by Marvel last year. It's something that was, might be as old as when the original came out. So it is original in its own regard. So,
but there's a lot of the foreign ones though, like Hulk #1, for instance. Like the LCS I go to had a Hulk #1 Australian version, and Hulk #1 obviously came out in the early '60s. The Australian version came out, it was like 84 or something like that. So it just depends on the book you're looking at.
But it's nothing within the last like 10 years maybe, right?
No,
so
no,
still
no,
getting something older, but
definitely.
It's not like brand new. So
yeah.
But I do think it's interesting, to look at certain comics, and maybe some people who gravitate to certain comics, and in cards there's a lot of people that do rainbows. When there's like different parallels and stuff like that, and maybe someone could try to like mini rainbow or rainbow a certain comic that they love, and it's something just interesting. It's something different. It's a little bit harder to find. You kind of have to like dig through people and dig through there's like different like forums and stuff like that. But when you find it, man, like it's fun. Like it's fun because hey, like maybe you are buying the same comic that you probably have 3, 4, 5, 6 of, but it's fun because it's just like a different year, different print, different language.
Yeah, and so just so everyone's aware, so Sergio, so most stuff we talk about is comics. So JP, I don't know if you're, but the term rainbow, what he means by that, like we'll just use like PMGs for example. So like with a PMG, you can have like red, green, and blue, or red, blue, and green. It'll have the same art, but the color will be different for them, right? So the rainbow means you're going to get all colors of that specific card. So when you talk about rainbow in comics, it's like you got the American version, the Mexican version, the Spanish version, the Dutch, all the versions of that one comic.
That's neat.
So it's just something fun, like it's everyone kind of has like those comics that they love, and certain comics that just like they if they find like another version, like you might think it's interesting, and then you have another comic, and well, from what I know, and I kind of thought about this the other day, and I was like, man, like could it be? Could this be like the first variant kind of like cover? And I'm not sure, so I'm gonna show this to you here. This is a big book for me, and I know that you asked me the other day if I owned it, and I said no, because I don't own the one that you asked me about, right? You asked me a very specific one. You're like, hey, do you own FF5? And I know you meant the English version. I said no, I don't own it. You're like, why? We had a conversation, but when I thought about this the other day, I was just like, man, like, is this the first like a actual official like variant cover? Maybe it is. So this is by Lopez Espy. And that is Fantastic Four #5, but that's a Spanish version.
Oh wow, I've never seen that.
Yeah, so
because I saw there's another Doom collector's name's Doom Card on Instagram, and he posted I think the Mexican version of FF5, and it's the exact same art.
Yeah,
but that is something I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, awesome, man. So I take that as like maybe before it was even like a thing that it had a label. That's the first. I mean, that's not Jack Kirby art.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's much
Lopez Espy. Well, I mean, Lopez Espy. A lot of the titles for the Spanish versions all have an alternate cover to the original. So, I mean, I have a few more that I'm not going to show, but just to show the world, man. There's stuff out there that's pretty cool. And guess what? This didn't cost me $5K.
Yeah.
So
where did you find that?
Oh, we can't talk about that. Can't talk about that. No, it's there's. I'll just say that there's a lot of new sellers online, and just go kind of like pick their brain and like see what they have. There's a lot of collectors that don't even post some of the stuff that they sell. IG's become I think a big platform for some of these like foreign books. But I just think that in recent times, from what I've seen, I think since certain people bought like certain books and they're probably running out of their inventory of what they're actually holding, they're trying to like get their premiums out, and they're probably charging too much. Like this book is not $5K, and I don't think it's $5K. I would never pay $5K for this specific book. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to distinguish because like what's the comp? Nobody knows. Like if it's a private sale, no one knows. So the foreign market's pretty weird, but I think it's interesting because you can find like little cool stuff like that I don't think I've never seen anyone else with that book.
I've never seen it
myself. So
yeah, and it's an interesting and fun way to keep the hobby fresh for you, right? Finding these kinds of things.
Yeah, of course. And that's why when you asked me the other day about if I didn't have that book, I'm not even looking for that book. Like I'm looking for stuff that I'm not going to find 3, 4, 5 copies of online.
Mm-hmm. So you had mentioned earlier that there are a few pieces out there that you want to hope to acquire. Are those something for public knowledge, or are you keeping those close to the chest?
No, I mean, if you could beat me on eBay, you could snag it out of my hands. But the 2014 MU Diamond.
Okay.
That's one. So I have the 2014 MU Diamond, but there's the 75th Diamond.
Yeah.
And the 75th Diamond is the one that has like the then and now, like the now and then, the more recent photo.
Yeah.
So I'm missing that diamond.
This is a card he's talking about, by the way.
Yeah. So 2014, 75th anniversary Rittenhouse, numbered set, a lot of rare inserts, a lot of clean looking cards. For a lot of people that don't know, the Rittenhouse stuff is some of my favorite card stuff out there for sure. Clean card stock.
100% agree. Right. Is that card currently on eBay right now, or are you still waiting, looking for it? Yeah, okay. I was just saying.
No, I know who has it, and hopefully when me and that person has spoken, and when it's time for that card to get out of their hands, then hopefully it comes to me.
Yeah.
And so it's just a conversation that's been had between like collectors, and if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, then I'll just wait for another one to pop up.
Yeah. So JP, I actually sent this to you today. So today there's a guy. So there's the diamond that he's talking about. In that 2014 Rittenhouse, there's 2 other diamonds, we'll say. And so like today, the diamond cards I sent you today, JP, are the two of the other two Silver Surfer ones.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's only 10 of each one, and so they're not cheap. Like I said, the guy I talked to today, he's like, he'd let them go for $1,000 each, which is well above my budget for a card. So I couldn't pick them up, but they're sweet looking cards, no doubt.
Yeah, and I gave you my opinion on it. You know,
yeah,
like there's two diamonds, but one of them is the better looking one than the other. And I just told them, like, if you want the rainbow, man, like this one, if he gets a hold of that card, it's going to be so much less available than it is now. Because like I told you, that guy's not holding it like to PC or anything like that. Like I know he'll sell it to you.
What's the better card?
The
Chaos Wars, right?
The one that has like Silver Surfer like raising his hand.
Yeah.
It's the one that's on the left in that image I sent you, Jay.
Oh, that one. I thought the Chaos one is on the right. That one's.
Wait, which one?
I like the Chaos War better than the other one. Looks a little too cartoony for me.
Oh, yeah, see, I like. Agree. Okay, I like the.
You like the cartoony one? No.
Yeah.
Way.
So
looks more like Ron Lim's work, but it's not. The one on the right's a little more.
So of the
adult.
Chaos, so of these diamonds, there's a ruby and then there's an emerald. So the ruby is out of 50 and the emerald is out of 100. So I have the emerald for the Chaos War, but I don't have the ruby or the diamond, obviously.
I don't know. The cards for me are really hard to get a handle on. I was at an antique store today, and they had like the inaugural set for the 94. I think they were 94 Flair Marvel
probably.
cards, and they had the metal cards, and they had them like in the 4-pack, like the one card, but there's 4 on the sheet.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, like the annual like promos, the 4 card like uncut sheets.
Yep. And I have a sheet behind me that has like it's all Spider-Man. It's like I think it's 8 cards on the sheet, and it came like it's magazine size.
Yeah.
But these ones were like 4 pictures on them, and I don't know what they're worth. They look good to me. They look like they're metal. They say metal on them. They look like they're expensive, but
I actually have one right here.
Little that's the exact one they had. Yeah.
Yeah, these are cool. I saw Sketch Card Hive posted the uncut sheet for the 90 Impel promo. That's very cool.
Yeah, the big uncut sheet. Yeah.
So what's a sheet like that worth?
The comic size like this, like probably like $10 online. It's nothing crazy.
The 4-pack.
Yeah, but I think where you might like maybe if you're looking at it like that, like if you graded one and it was like really clean, like and you hit like a 10 or something, because some PSA will grade that.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, they'll grade that. They have oversized. They have oversized slabs. So if you grade that and you get a nice little grade, you could BGS that too.
Interesting.
Because they had 2 of those there, the same one. Then they had a metal one that had, I think it had Venom with a machine gun.
Yep.
And then Ghost Rider and somebody else. And the Venom, like you said, the rainbow, I think the Venom was blue. And when I went online to check, it was like purple or red. So there must be a different color besides the one I had in front of me. And I couldn't really get a good idea comp-wise what it was worth. And I think she wanted $5 for the Venom one and $2 the ones you had there. And I was like, not that it was that expensive.
That's a decent one. And it's just something fun and something like a little different. It's like a promo, I think I think Sketch talked about this the other day. Sketch Card Hive. If you guys don't know, you guys collect cards or just want to like get into cards or card history, man. I think that's like your guy, and he has a channel.
Oh no, we've had Fausto on.
Yeah, it's Fausto's. He's like an encyclopedia. So
yeah,
I know he talks about promo cards quite a bit, and I think promo cards are important, just like he does.
Did you watch his character collecting video that he did with Matt Fuller, OCD Sketch Card? And like he went through a lot of that crazy. I mean, his collection is insane. What he collects, like it's on another level.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's been around for a long time. He's been doing it for a long time. Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
so,
but
I don't know what that's got anything to it or not, though.
But like JP, what you're talking about is kind of what Sergio and I have talked a lot about, right? Look, comic books. There's so much data available, whether it be GPA or Go Collect or whatever, right? There's so much data in terms of like comps and things like that. So like it's fairly easy to understand what fair market value is for any comic book. For a card, there's no GPA, there's no Go Collect, there's nothing. All you have is at best like the last 90 days on eBay that you can look up. And like a lot of these cards, you know, like a diamond card that Sergio's talking about out of 10, that probably hasn't sold in the last 3 months. And so like how you come to a price that's fair, that, you know, both parties agree, it's not easy. And a lot of guys, like you'll see online on eBay, they'll post a card and they'll put like legitimately like $45,000. And they really only do it to like attract attention. And really they'll accept like, you know, 10, we'll just say. Like it's kind of crazy how the market works with cards.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the thing though, is that, you know, a comic book has a first appearance or the first battle of Deadpool and Wolverine, whatever you want to call it. Where with the cards, they might be 1 of 1 or 1 of 10, but that's this year's set. There might be next year has a set, and they might have Silver Surfer and they drew it differently, and that's a better drawing. So is that one more valuable? I mean, you could probably lose your ass.
And Sergio,
can you on the cards?
Yeah, I'll say the thing was difficult with cards that I don't find in comics, and Sergio, you can obviously add in here. You get these card collectors that are like serious, you know, there's a guy, Miles, he collects Submariner, and his goal is to collect his goal is to collect every Namor card there is. And when he gets a Namor card, you're never going to see it again on the public market, right? And so you get these cards where there's 10 of them, there's 50 of them, there's 25 of them, whatever. They get eaten up quickly by these collectors, and you never see the light of day. And so when one does happen to pop up on eBay, it's kind of like they can pick their own. Whereas with comics, we have so much data available and there's so many outlets to buy from that, like, you can find almost any comic you want and find multiple versions of it versus, and people are always willing to like sell for the right price versus with cards. A lot of these guys are like, no, I don't sell. So, I mean, Sergio, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, it's you know, it's an interesting place because from the one thing that I've seen with like some of the collectors that are out there, like on the IG world, a lot of them don't collect comics, right?
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of like card collectors that are just strictly card collectors, and that's their niche, and that's their thing. And there's a lot of people in the hobby that are kind of that way, that they have tons of cards, but there's zero comics, you know? Maybe not zero, maybe a few here and there, but like not stuff that they show like publicly or stuff like that. So I mean, I guess in a sense, kind of like Fausto has said, like, yeah, it is in some senses like manufactured, you know, scarcity, rarity, but it's just kind of like one of those, you know, for the people that are in the hobby, like some of these cards are really sought out after, and it's kind of like hard to you know, to deny that stuff. Like there's some autographs out there that are really big that, you know, if you're a collector and you love that character, and that card popped up. I mean, the Defenders Silver Surfer just sold for what, like $5,000? The Joe Jusko auto?
Like I didn't. Yeah, it sold last week for $5,000. Yeah, the Joe Jusko
$5,000.
Auto. Yeah.
You know, and
or like for example, JP, we were talking about the guy Elusive. So one of his top characters is Gambit, and like I was talking to him, and he's like, there's this 2016 Marvel Masterpieces buyback of the 1992 Marvel Masterpieces, autographed by Joe Jusko, and it's like numbered out of 15, and it's like the card he wants, and he hasn't seen it come up for sale in 2 years. So there's just stuff that you just can't. If it comes out, you got to kind of jump on it, and you may pay more than you want if you really want it, and because you may never get another shot at it again.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So that's the one difference, like with cards and comics, that, like I said, like, you know, why would I freak out about a Fantastic Four 5 if, you know, there's cards out of 10, cards out of 15, you know, big signatures out there. And I will say though, you know, like that's kind of like just like if you focus on like the card thing. I've been kind of thinking like, you know, the past couple months, especially after like you know, MegaCon being like one of my first like big cons that I went to here in Orlando. And it's like, man, like, you know what? I honestly enjoyed the experience. Like, they had a good amount of artists, and I enjoyed like just stopping by, like, you know, saying what's up and getting a couple of things signed by them. You know, I like what CGC is doing with their whole like signature series kind of situation, because, you know, maybe Jim Lee doesn't pop up at my con, and maybe I get a chance to do like a Jim Lee signing with him through CGC, which is really cool. And I've kind of been enjoying more of that aspect because, you know, seeing it from like the con side and like going there and you're just like, man, like these artists really don't get like much love, you know? No, they don't have like huge lines. Like everyone's getting like the actors, you know, signatures and stuff like that, which I don't really care for, you know, but it just doesn't make sense because I'm like, these guys played them, these guys wrote them and draw them, but you guys don't want to get this stuff. You guys want to get that stuff. Okay, like I'm just gonna go that way.
I was last weekend at the con, Jim Franco, which is like legendary artist in Marvel. There was John Beatty was there, another guy, Bob. All these guys have been, you know, drawing Marvel characters since like the 60s. And there was never a line to their booth. You could have just walked up at any time to talk to these guys. You know? But at the same con, in the room next door, they had Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays Kingpin in Daredevil. They had Grant Gustin, Flash from the CW series. Gio Esposito, who plays Moff Gideon in Mandalorian. And like the line was miles. I mean, like people were in line for hours to get photograph ops and autograph ops. And I kind of feel the same with you, Sergio. Just like, I would much rather have something signed by the guy that created the character than someone that played him in a movie.
Right. Yeah, and you know, like I mean, hey, like, you know, look at Ramita Senior, man. Like we just lost a big one, you know, and obviously, like, hey, like, you know, time is one of those things that we can't control, and you know, we're gonna lose some of those artists that are still here, you know, that are still here today. Like there's not too much appreciation for them. It's just kind of crazy. You know? So that's kind of been my shift. Like I want to obviously, like, you know, pick up some of my favorite covers and covers that I like and just get them signed by these guys as a, I guess, you know, kind of say like as a keepsake, as like a PC kind of situation, because, you know, once they're gone, they're gone. You know, it's just what it is.
That's what people were talking about this weekend with Steranko. They were like, this is the last Silver Age like legend that's alive still. And so, yeah, you know,
I definitely want to. Do you know Steranko having like a signing?
I don't know if him having a signing at CGC, but he does still do the con scene. And like when you go, like he's really cool because like he will talk to every single person that comes up for 10, 15 minutes. So, you know, if you're not right at the front, you'll have to wait just for the fact that he is going to chat your ear off to everyone that comes up, which is, I think, is really cool.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
I was shocked.
Of course, man. Listen, I remember. I won't forget. I went to the MegaCon here in Orlando, and Jim Shooter was there. And obviously, like, listen, man, this is what I'm talking about. Jim Shooter, he's getting up there, you know. Yeah. And you know, I walked up to him. The guy, you know, he didn't have any line or anything, and I walked up with a really big Wolverine card that I actually I just sent to Johnny Bravo. Like, you know, me and Johnny worked out on a couple of things, and you know, as a Wolverine collector, I'm like, man, this is your card. This is more your card than mine. Like, you should have this card. So we made a deal, but it's a 2014 Marvel Beginnings breakthrough issue, and it's the Wolverine versus Sabretooth #1.
Yep.
So I had that card with the COA, Chris Claremont, Jim Shooter double auto, which is pretty rare. And you know, I sold it to Johnny so he can, like, you know, own it and go grade it and do all that stuff. And we were talking about it because I took it to MegaCon and I showed Jim Shooter, and I'm like, you know, just a question, like, you know, just to see, like, you know, if maybe you have insight of like where he was. I'm like, do you remember this card? He's like, oh yeah, like, you know, like barely, you know. What were you doing like 2014? He's like, dude, I don't know. Like, he doesn't even remember anymore, you know? So he's just like, you know, he's getting up there, and like, you know, for sure Jim Shooter is like one of those autos that I want to try to, like, you know, lock down. And yeah, there's a few of them left, right? Steranko's a big one. Like I'd like to get that Foom cover that I have, you know, auto by him, yellow label, regardless of grade. Like I'm not trying to get like a 9.8, like just like a PC, you know.
I think Shooter is actually doing a upcoming CGC signature event.
Yeah. So, and I'll be sending a couple things in. I gotta, you know, I want to send like especially like for someone like Shooter, like the Secret Wars, like kind of rainbow situation I got, Secret Wars 10. I want to send those in to get them signed. I have the Spanish one that has the Amazing Spider-Man cover that I posted, and I have the other one that's in the UK one with the Secret Wars and the Zoids. So if I can get that, well, I mean, John Beatty's going to be here for SuperCon next weekend, and I sent him a message, and hopefully I was like, hey man, you know, save one of those Doom cards for me, because I saw he did like a Doom card sketch card,
Yeah.
And I'd love to buy one off of those. And
well, he was
let's see if we can
so
have.
he was doing. You could get a commission from him when he was there, so I imagine he'll do the same at MegaCon. And I want to say a head sketch was like $100 for him, and I think a full body was $200.
Yeah, no, that's fun. You know, like that'd be a fun, sketch to get. I mean, I have Secret Wars 8, with a couple of signatures on there. The Secret Wars 10, I missed out on that one. I should have bought it when I did, but I chose the Canadian variant because it has a lesser pop than the one with like all the SIGs.
And the Secret Wars 10 is the one with Doom on it, right? Where like the clothes are all shredded and everything.
Yeah. Okay. So when I had a chance to get those two comics, and I picked the one with the lower pop because the Canadian version is like a 2% print of the total run. So I picked that. I chose that one over the signatures.
Same art though, right?
Yeah, same exact art, same comic, different price. There's a price variant, but just in that version, it's a 2% print run compared to like the entire print.
A lot of those price variant ones though can get up there in value, like the Star Wars one, for instance, that you were talking about earlier, JP. That's the most valuable 35-cent price variant, right? And there's also like the Iron Fist 14, which is first Sabretooth's price variant that's worth well more, and so yeah, there's definitely some value in the price variants.
Yeah, so it was just one of those things. When I saw the pop, it was just kind of like fun, and it was like a 3 pop, so I was like, I'll pick this one. Like I'll try to, like, if I can get a triple sig like myself, I think that'd be like an achievement, Like if I can get like a John Beatty Jim Shooter, like, one day, and then catch Zek, at another moment, and like get it signed, and like hopefully they can crack it for me. That'd be an achievement for sure.
Well, so, you know where Zek is right now, right?
I don't. Where is he at?
So Zek
is he in like Dallas?
No, for the last 2 years, Mike Zek has been on the beach in Thailand.
Oh man, yeah. Well,
because I
guess the auto's not going to happen anytime soon.
You can go on his website, and his email is on there, and so I just out of the blue was like, I'll just send him an email. Just to see what he's, who knows. And he actually responded. He's like, hey, thanks for writing. He's like, I'm actually in Thailand. I've been here about a year and a half. He's like, I don't know when I'm coming back. I will eventually, but I don't know yet. And like, he's still there. I mean, hey, I'm jealous. I mean, he's got the ability to do it. More power to him.
Yeah. Who knows what he's up to out there in Thailand? Living the good life, man.
Yeah.
No, it's cool, but that's like one of those things that I definitely want to attend like more of the cons. That's definitely like one of those like kind of goal, like yearly goal situations, even if it's just like one big one a year. And put some coins aside for that, because I think that's more important than like some of the stuff that's out there. Like if you put it in perspective, like we're just talking about, like, hey, would I save $1,000 and take it to the con so I can get some nice SIGs, or would I take $1,000 and send it on a surfer card today? If you ask me that right now, I'm going to take that to the con, Yeah. And if you do it smart, I mean, hey, like, I saw a lot of people that were buying prints at the con, and then like they scalp those prints and they're selling them for like $200 a pop online, which is just like crazy. I don't think like that. So, but watching it happen, I'm like, man, shit, next year I'll just do that then. Like I'll go buy a couple prints and sell them I'll sell them for $100. I'll save you $100. But yeah, it's just one of those things that the con is especially when you have a lot of artists. The MegaCon had a lot of them, man, like Andy Kubert, Frank Miller.
Is it MegaCon's? I think one of the biggest cons.
I think it's the second.
Outside of
the second largest.
Like you have San Diego, and then like from there you have the ones below. I think MegaCon's right there on that level.
Yeah, so supposedly the second. I don't know if that's like true. I would say maybe the third, but I read something that it's like the second biggest con in the U.S. So
yeah, so I mean, you're always going to have premium writers and artists that go to that show.
Yeah. The only thing I did realize, and obviously like there was like the Artist Alley, which they had a good amount of variety. They had a good variety of artists. But the one thing is just like there wasn't much like comic love, man. Like it's kind of like changed in the sense of like they didn't have a lot of booths where you could pick up like some back issues and stuff like that. There was like one little square that had like it almost like they had like only one seller selling comics, And I remember at the SuperCon they had a couple different sellers, so there's different booths to choose from.
Yeah, I think that's what you hear a lot of people saying, is that at these like mega conventions, it's trending more towards like pop culture than like the original, comics. And so like, like when I went to Emerald City Comic Con, which is the big one here in Seattle, there was probably like 5 vendors for comics, and but there was like 4 levels of everything else.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Yeah, the Pokemon is endless, like the anime stuff. I mean, anime is huge, and I talk about anime all the time. Anime is pretty big, man. It's kind of like taking over, really. Like when I saw that Netflix deal go through with the whole anime, them getting the rights to those cartoons, I was like, oh man, that's a huge move.
Well, what I find crazy is that there are more Funko Pop dealers now at these big cons than there are comic book vendors.
Yeah, I don't understand that one. I don't understand the fun. I've always hated the Funkos. Like any Funko that I've owned has been gifted to me. I just don't understand it.
There's got to be a Doctor Doom Funko, I imagine.
There is. There's like the vaulted one. That's it's like a super low number, one of the first releases, and there's another one that's like kind of like a mech one. Somebody gifted me one, but that's just one of those. I'll put it to you like this: it's not on my watch list. It's not on my save list. I'm not buying that anytime soon.
Yeah.
So no, but the Funkos I don't understand.
You guys ever hear of Muddy Mugs?
Muddy Mugs, no.
They're look like Funkos. They come in a square box, but they're more of they're not really they're like softer plastic. And I had a Doom one. I had a Surfer one. I think I showed you. I got a Punisher one. You can actually see the Punisher one right above my head between the 2 comics. Which way? Right up here.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a Muddy Mug. So I had a Doom one I sold. I don't think I have anymore, but I still have Silver Surfer. But they're not like Funkos. They're just just some random $5, $10 piece to put in your collection of your favorite character and put on your wall. They're that's what I think Funkos are. There are some rare ones, but for the most part, they're like dollar comics. They're everywhere.
Yeah. No, for sure. JP, so I mean, obviously you had mentioned the whole comic situation. What do you collect as far, because you have a lot of comics and from here I can't really see all of them, but I'm just curious what's up there
behind me on the top row over here are all my Punisher books, graded ones.
Nice.
Then I have this middle row right here is like my 181, my GSX1, Ultimate Fallout, New Mutants. And I got my favorite character, Mr. Lobo. The next Wolverine of DC Comics over there, Omega Man #1. And then I got a couple Silver Age Batman, first Rhino, and then Superman, Masterpiece, and Detective Comics Loot Crate. Just some stuff I find at online auctions and flea markets and stuff. So
that's very cool.
I've kept most of these the way they are, but this other row here kind of changes over time. But I've become a big fan of these books. I'm not sure if you.
Okay.
The Tomb Raider books.
That's cool.
Adam Hughes. You've heard of Adam Hughes?
No.
Yeah,
I don't really deal with a lot of the modern stuff.
Yeah, he can draw women quite well. So he pretty realistic stuff. So when I see those, I'll grab those too.
That's pretty cool. The Laura Croft.
Yeah, I give JP a lot of. I make fun of him a lot for those books, but they're people like them.
Oh, here's one that's a little bit off.
Gun Honey.
And look what she's petting.
Jesus Christ. No, that's sweet. No, that's cool, man. That's cool to see, something that's not so much like the normal all the time. Yeah.
That's an old one though too. So
there's one girl I picked up, recently. That's the Ghost in the Shell. I bought a little wizard ash can the other day. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are fun for sure. An old school, those wizard promos are pretty cool.
Yeah,
couple of those ash cans.
What's her name? Lady Death.
Yeah.
And that 90s stuff, you don't see that very often, the ash cans. I think they're cool to collect because they're not all over the place. They might have, some of them might have value, but some of them are just hard to find.
Yeah.
Does anyone know why they're called ash cans? This is what I've always wondered.
I don't know the history of the name. I just kind of that's just that's what they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the history of why they call them ash cans. It'd be interesting though. I'm gonna have to call
either. I know they're. I saw someone just recently had you guys know Max, the Max, drawn by Sam Keith.
Yeah, the Image comic.
Yeah, he has an ash can that Sam Keith signed. It's pretty, that's the thing that makes me mad about CGC is that it's pretty evident he signed it, right? And they have a green label and it says name on front. And it's like a rare ash can of the Max. And it's signed by the artist and they give him a green label on it. So it drives me insane. But there's a couple cool ash cans out there I've seen.
The coolest ash can I think I've seen, it's ASM 300, and on the back of it, it has the cover of Web of Spider-Man #1. So that Charles Vess black suit Spidey on the building cover, which is pretty cool to have both of those on the same comic, and it's the ash can. So that's the coolest ash can I've seen.
I have a Silver Surfer ash can. I'll send you a picture of it. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
He's like friend secrets. He doesn't even know.
Yeah.
It was kind of beat up, so I had to press it to make it look better, but it's not. It was beat up when I got it, and my pressing made it somewhat better, but not. It's hard to come back from that. So I'll find it and send it to you. It's a Ron Lim. That's a great cover.
My boy.
Or do you ever get the comic Superman versus Silver Surfer?
Did I get it?
You ever see that one?
I don't think I've actually seen it. I've seen.
No,
I don't think I've seen
Ron
that.
Lim drew it.
Okay.
I got that one too. I'll show it to you. But yeah, I mean, I go flea market hunting. I go antique store hunting, and I find all kind of odd stuff here and there. And it's funny how much things I find that I think are cool or are valuable, and they're not. They're just they're 90s, dime a dozen type stuff. But you're like, oh, this looks like a good piece, and then you grab it, and you're like, not worth it. It's just filling up long boxes and nothing.
You know one that got away from me, and I just didn't know enough. Like at that time, was the like really old the price guide, the Marvel price, or like the comic price guide.
Yeah,
oh,
it
was the blue one. Yeah, it was the blue version, which I think is the second edition. And I went through like a flea market with a friend, and we just like Central Florida, like middle of nowhere, and the guy he wanted like $150, and I was just like, nah, man, this is too much, And then I think I saw a comp, it went for like 1,000 or something like that. I went back like I went back later, like a couple months back, thinking like, dude, no one's buying this thing, but someone picked it up, so somebody knew what they were looking for.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I find I was out at a antique store, and I had just started getting back into it, and I was listening to one of the YouTube videos about rare comics, and they had this called what's it called? New York World's Fair, I think it was 1940. On the cover, it had Superman, blonde-haired Superman. The only time he's been drawn with blonde hair, and it's worth like $1 million or $500,000.
Wow.
I go to the antique store like a week later after I listened to that, and I saw that book in the kiosk, and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's here! It's here! It's a reprint." By the time I got it out and I looked at it, it was a reprint, but I thought I struck gold. Like, it was right here for $25. Wow, how easy could this be? I'm just gonna make mint. All the stuff is just there to grab, but I still have it. I paid, I bought it. Just that story is why I kept it. But
and the best part is like, hey, like now you know that it's a reprint. And you'll never make that mistake again. And that's why, in a collecting sense, sometimes I'll let you make the mistake. Just get burned a little bit. Come back, and now you learn your lesson. All right, like now we reformat the way we think, and we collect smarter. I think it's important for collectors to make mistakes.
We JP and I have talked, like he does the antique store, the flea market kind of thing, and he hasn't hit like the big gold mine yet, but people do find, and the more you go, the more you'll find it. We have another good buddy who we've done a couple episodes with, Mike. He has the Lunch Money Comics channel, and when this airs, that video will have dropped, so I don't think he'll mind me saying this, but he had showed us he just found in his neighborhood in the basement a guy's stuff that he got, and he had Hulk 181, Fantastic 448. Like, I mean, that find that we're all hoping to find, he found it. I mean, it's pretty crazy what people come across out there.
Yeah, when I got into this, I thought for sure I would find some garage sale would find a 181 or a X-Men 1, whatever, and then he finds it in his neighborhood. He didn't have to even leave the neighborhood. He found it, like, and it has a good story to it too, because some months back he bought some comics from this guy in a garage sale and realized that the guy was selling it was like a Secret Wars #8 was in the lot he found, and he told the guy, I can't buy it from you for like $10. This is worth more than that. I got to pay you more. And the guy's like, oh, I'm fine. And Mike said, I got to give you more money for it. So that goodwill turned into the guy inviting him back over to check the basement out, and then this 181 shows up in there with some other books. So being positive, being good about things, being upfront with people, put him in the situation he's in now. So it's a good story overall. Even though it was in his own neighborhood, he just could have rolled there, on his bicycle, for Christ's sake.
But I mean, you still see people that they go to an estate sale or whatever. Like I've seen guys that found an X-Men 1 at an estate sale. He found a $5 ASM 300 at a garage sale. Like they're definitely out there. They're just hard to find. So
yeah. I mean,
and you'd be surprised, man. Like, a lot of people, if they're not even like anywhere close to this like hobby and like, kind of like what it does and all that stuff, comps, dude, they don't know what they have, man. They're just like, it's just a bunch of old comics, and some people see the importance of them and some people don't.
Yeah.
So you just never know, man. Like, listen, I wish that I had a better market. I don't think South Florida has a good market for garage sale, comic hunt kind of situation. We don't have a good market for that. I think that the more the areas like the Midwest, where like let's say some of these families live there for ages and they've owned the house for like 20, 30 years. I think those are your better chance places, like like the up north, like the Philadelphias and the Massachusetts, stuff like that. So
yeah, Mike, he's got that whole northeastern corridor. He's hitting them up every week. And we also interviewed a guy, Drew of Como Comics, if you've seen his stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he's out in Missouri, and he was like, collections are just falling out of the sky in Missouri, because it's exactly what you said. You have these people that have had houses for 20, 30 years. And, and a lot of the situation is like it's a widow whose husband collected this stuff. She has no idea, and she just wants to dump it. And so, but yeah, I'm in the same boat in Washington. I got nothing out here like that.
But see, I have one local LCS, and I don't even like the guy that owns it, so I won't go back. He's an idiot, so I won't go back there. So I got to hit antique stores and pick through a bunch of Archies and other shit that.
There's some gold mines in the Archies, man. Don't sleep on the Archies.
The innuendo covers. I look for those, but it's too much to read all that stuff. I just flip through them. But I was hoping I might like find an easy one that was pretty, find the innuendo pretty quick. So
yeah. But that's what I mean. Even like some of the Archie stuff, like it's not that I would like dig through it and that would become my thing, but I did see a couple sales and comps, and I'm just like, dude, what? Like this, this is going for that much? Like, wow, like I remember, as a kid, my mom would buy like some of the Archie like little comic strips from like the store and bring them home. So
well,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys pay attention to heritage auctions. So they have auctions every week, but they had one of their pre-meet platinum or whatever they call premier auctions end over the weekend. And I was watching one of the channels that kind of goes through it, and there was a Richie Rich, remember that movie Richie Rich? But there's a Richie Rich comic #1, and it was a 9.6, and it sold for over $100,000 at the heritage auction.
What?
So, yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
there's people out there with deep pockets that just want to have the best copy of whatever their favorite item is, And I know, Rowan, you and I are not like that. We want to move up from the mid-grade, low-grade, mid-grade, higher, but I can't see dropping $100,000 on a comic.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't know. Even if I'm a billionaire, I don't know. Maybe I would, but still.
Ask the guy with the Superman comic how he feels, man. He took a big hit on that.
Yeah. Well, so actually today, so another good friend of ours from the channel, Lawrence from Mighty, he put out a video talking about that sale, because we all know it essentially lost $1 million from what it sold last year. And he was saying because the buyers are unknown, he was going through some of the language on Golden's auction, and he was saying like there's a chance, and he doesn't know, but there's a chance that the person that bought it was actually the guy that already was the actual owner, and he was kind of testing to see what the market was for it. So I don't know, who knows, but that's a theory out there. But yeah, I mean, that was, and actually tomorrow, actually, we're recording with Vince, who's the president of Comic Connect, and that's actually one of the things I want to talk to him about. Is this kind of whole situation with that, what he thinks all about it. Will be interesting to hear his take on it.
So there was a YouTube video about what was it? Some guy was interviewing. It was the $5 million comic. He went to right. You know what I'm talking about?
The one in the Middle East.
I think so. I mean, it was.
Yeah. It's that guy. He's like, because there is the Superman 1 that did sell for $5.3 million. It's an 8.0. It's the second highest graded Superman 1, highest sold comic ever. And so there's this guy in the Middle East, and he's like, oh, I've got a $5 million comic. And he has this vault, and he opens the vault, and he's like, there's my $5 million comic. And it's a Superman 1, but it's a non-graded, like it's in a CGC case with the NG on it. So it's like, it's got a facsimile cover. And it's just like, bro, that's not worth $5 million. Like you were
not even close.
Well, it's funny because in that video, he goes through a lot of his other comics and he talks about the value. And the guy that's like doing this tour has no idea what comics are worth. And so this Middle Eastern guy is like, goes like, that comic's worth like $40,000. It's like, bro, that's not even worth $4,000. Like, what are you talking about?
I know. So, that's the one that
Swaggle Hosta did a parody.
Yeah,
he did like a commentary of it, which was hilarious.
But that I know that comic wasn't worth that, but if that recent one, that 7.0 sold for 1.6, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a heck of a drop off. I mean, I know a 7 versus an 8, but is it 5 times the value?
Well, no, that exact 7.0, not a different 7, the exact 7.0, because there's only 2 in the world. One being the one in the Fantastic Collection, and that one. That exact comic sold a year ago for $2.6 million.
Right. So you think he tested? They say he tested the waters.
That's a theory. That's a theory.
Right.
But the bottom line is the market isn't there at that level right now for it.
You think he would double down and drop another $2 million on a book that he already spent 2.6?
Well, I mean,
I don't.
The money comes back to him, right? Because it's his book.
Yeah.
He pays a little bit of the fee.
The sale never goes through.
Yeah, so he leaves a little bit of a margin to the auction house, but otherwise, I mean, if he's got that kind of money, the margin he's got to pay to them is probably minuscule to see what he would make.
What if he sold it for the loss? He needed $1 million loss.
Maybe, but it's also interesting that like, why when you have that book, why did he go to Golden to sell it? Like that doesn't make any sense, right? Like. When it comes to those books, you go to Comic Connect, you go to Heritage.
Listen, Netflix is a powerful thing, man. You know, you got the Netflix show, like, oh, Golden's like the new hot thing, and you know, let me test this water, and
maybe he got compensated from Golden to be on there.
Very well.
Oh man, come on, you remember the deal with the shoes with Ken Golden, where the guy's like, yo, you either take it or leave it. Like, you guys remember that episode?
No, I've never seen the show. I haven't seen the show.
There's a deal where there's a seller that owns a lot of like game worn NBA stuff, and you know, he's just going through his collection. It's just crazy. Like, you know, you should definitely watch. Just not so much to like fanboy like Ken Golden, but just to watch like what other people are selling on his site and like how he kind of like selects stuff. And if he had anything to do with it, you know, if Ken Golden had anything to do with it, I'm pretty sure, you know, he was like, dude, you have to sell this book through Golden, and he kind of pressured him probably to do it through Golden.
Oh, interesting.
Now, Golden, was he the guy that had the stuff in the 90s, all the signature stuff?
No, I mean, dude, honestly, probably. Like, this guy's been doing this hobby collecting thing for a long time.
There was somebody who you could get, he would have signatures, and they would have a COA from Ken Golden from Scorecard something. It was real big. He was real big into baseball cards. Maybe it's a different guy I'm thinking of.
Well, Golden is they're more known for, like, sports cards and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because back in the 90s, you had people who were giving COAs on everything that you signature-wise, and it really flooded the market. So it killed it in that regard when it came to signatures. But that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Ken Golden has like doesn't he have like Jackie Robinson's his contract? He has a copy of his contract. Yeah, man, some crazy stuff. You know, game worn jerseys, like, you know. So he's big into for sure like the sports stuff. But I think that, you know, Golden is trying to expand with, like, you know, obviously like the Marvel stuff and the comic stuff. They're trying to like really expand their horizon.
Well,
but I don't know, like, you know, if the big time comic collectors are already buying through some of these other platforms, you know, maybe they're just not paying that much attention to Golden, or who knows, man. Like, I just feel like if a big book sold like that, you would think that another whale will come in here and like scoop that up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I'm interested actually when we chat with Vince. I'm going to talk to him. I want to ask him about that kind of very thing, like, you know, what factors are involved in that situation, because it is super interesting. And what was also interesting in that same golden auction, there was also an Action Comics one, like 3.0 or 3.5, and that as well sold a little lower than what it previously sold for. So it wasn't a good look for golden on the comic front.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, do you think it would have done the same through like the Comic Collect? I mean, just
I don't know.
Or Heritage, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's a good question.
I just feel like the one thing I do think about, like, obviously we've seen the market drop across the board in comics. I just think at the players at that level of $1 million comics, they're not really affected by that sort of thing. And so it's like, for those guys, it's like they want the best of the best, like JP was saying. It's like, this is your chance at a Superman 1 7.0. They're going to go for it if they want. I don't know.
And that's why I think that the theory of him buying him like, you know, buying it himself like doesn't make sense, because, you know, if another guy with a lot of money wanted it, he would have taken it, you know, and he would have paid whatever, like, you know, the $2 million, whatever.
If it was finally available and someone's been waiting to get a grade that high, you know, he wouldn't let himself get outbid. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows?
Could have been Rohan. He might have bought it. Did you buy it?
I wish I was able to do that kind of thing.
What was Rohan? He was running up the bid for Golden.
Yeah.
No,
could you imagine playing that game of like, you know, Superman 1 7.0? Like, I'll obviously never be able to buy that book, you know, right now. But like, if you're like in the bidding game, just being like bidding someone up, like hoping that you're eventually going to lose, and then all of a sudden you get like, that's like playing Russian roulette right there.
And you have to ask yourself too, just because, you know, obviously like we don't know, it's not disclosed who are the buyers. If the Action Comics #1 affected the sale of the other one, if it was just one comic instead of two comics selling on the same day, it could have been the same buyer. It could have been.
I would not be shocked if it was the same buyer.
And that happened with Heritage. Remember, they had the Batman 1, and then they had the, what they have go? They had two Batman.
They had a Batman 1 8.0, a Batman 1 7.0, and they had a Detective Comics 27 6.5 or 6.0. And yeah, I think all of that kind of brought the sales down for all three of them.
Yeah, and you know, if I was the guy selling that Superman book, like, I'd be like, dude, nobody else is selling a comic that week. This is the biggest comic like sale of the year, and I would have tried to make sure that was part of the clause, you know. Totally. Like, I'll sell the comic through you, but there can't be any other big comic for sale, you know. And after watching the Netflix show, I know that, you know, if you're a seller out there and you're a whale and you got something big, you can make those kind of demands, because I'll just go sell it at Heritage.
100% agree. Well, that's what
I'll go sell that one at Probstein. You know what I mean? Not really, but yeah.
I 100% agree with you. Like, if I had that book and I'm like, if you want this is the solo auction right here item. This is it.
That's it.
Yeah.
But why do you have to do it through Heritage whenever, you know, some of these people have thousands of people that follow them on IG and wherever else? Just have your own, you know,
well, do you remember years ago the Action Comics 1 9.0? So there's two 9.0s. They're the two highest graded ones in the world.
9.0 Action Comics.
Action Comics 1 is the most valuable comic book in the world. Now, there is the Mile High version one that I've heard would grade higher if it ever does get graded. So, you know, who knows what can come out. So, but there are two 9.0s Action Comic 1s. The last one that sold, the guy did it on eBay.
Like an auction or OBO?
eBay auction.
Oh, no, I couldn't do that.
eBay loved his ass at 13%.
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap.
Oh, yeah. He was
I would definitely say, though, you know, with what I think they announced the other day with eBay Live, that's going to be an interesting, you know, situation, because I think that's going to, like, you know, pretty much like kill like the whatnot market with like cards and comics and stuff. I think it's kind of like, you know, kind of died out a little bit. I see a lot of people doing other different kind of sales on whatnot, and, you know, it'd be interesting to do, just because like eBay is such a trusted brand. What eBay Live is going to do with auctions, with comics and cards in general. I think that, if anything, that's a platform for that kind of like live, you know, auction sale situation, because it's like, dude, it's worldwide, international, like everyone's in, you know, all the whales are in,
and the guarantee that they can provide because of how big they are.
Now, you guys know who's all been the whatnot sellers, right? You have
Yeah.
okay, well, some of those whatnot sellers, and this is a story I'm not sure if you guys heard about, but I want to mention it now. There was a company called Hero Restoration. You heard of them?
Yeah, I've seen them on IG.
It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Okay, so when I had that Detective Comics 259, right when I got it, I found a first Calendar Man at a flea market, and I sent it to Hero Restoration to ask them if they could fix it because I was still new into it. I didn't know if it was worth the keep, if they could upgrade it, whatever, because it looked like it was pretty beat up. And the guy wrote me back and said maybe. That's all he said, right? He didn't give me any more information. Kind of pissed me off. But he was recommended by Comic Tom or Gemmin or whoever, and so I was like, "Well, that was." And I sent a message to those guys saying, "Hey, you guys promote Hero Restoration, but they were kind of cold to me. I'm a listener. I listen, all subscribe, all this, that, this, and that. Nothing back from those guys. Well, Hero Restoration now is going through bankruptcy because I guess they got too big too fast, and they have all these books that they're still holding, and they haven't done anything to, and they're going to go bankrupt, and these people aren't going to get their books back.
What?
So there's this big thing going on with Hero. Had to fire some people and let go some people because they couldn't keep up with them. They hired it enough to keep up with demand, but then somehow I forgot the whole story about it. But there was they couldn't restore the books, so they didn't do what they said they would do, and then had to fire some people. And now he's holding these books, and these people can't even heard from him in a year. And they have their comics, like big name comics. Look that up.
And if anyone ever asks me, oh, like how come you don't grade and stuff like that, or why I'm not really comfortable with that kind of situation, there you go. Like when I got that Bianchi sketch at the MegaCon this past year, I mean, I did not want to send that out, dude. And then there was a delay, with CGC, it took longer than it should have, even though I paid for the express shipping and all that good stuff. And it's just one of those things, man. I can't deal with the anxiety, if I grade, honestly, I send it to a friend. I'm like, dude, here you go. It's out of my hands. And if it's meant to be, it'll come back. I actually submitted my first submission not too long ago, ever. So, I'll see how that goes. See what my eye is, on some of these graded cards, but
yeah,
see what happens.
There's a reason why the premium exists on books and cards that are already graded is because of that exact thing you talked about. You don't ever have to let it go again. It's yours to keep. It's not going anywhere.
I've submitted one set of books, 5 books. That was it.
Yeah.
No.
I've done one.
I just canceled my membership.
Books. Yeah, mine didn't renew either. And then I've done one card submission with PSA and one comic submission with CGC. And yeah, it's not my favorite process.
Are you going to submit your final CGC Blue Label submission through them or no?
Yeah, so
I'm sure you got a couple color matches out there that you want to label.
So JP, so just so you're aware, so CGC just started grading Marvel cards within the last year, and they have these great blue labels that match the comic CGC labels. So CGC also has their partner CSG that does sports cards and other cards, much bigger than the Marvel card world. But anyways, they're now going to merge, and they're no longer offering the blue label to match your comics. And so there's a lot of the Marvel card community is not happy with it. So anyway, so what Sergio was talking about is, did I say anything? So there's another friend in the card hobby that I made. His name's Dan. He's on Instagram. He's Mr. Brightsides. And he and I become good buddies, and we chat all the time. And he was doing one last submission. So I actually sent him 2 cards that would look great with the blue label of my Silver Surfer collection that aren't graded. So yeah, to answer your question, I threw in 2 cards with his submission to go.
Man, I set up that's, I mean, it's okay. So they're going to another label, but the problem is that, the attraction to the Marvel card collectors is that we collectively, I think we kind of felt like this one was for us,
yeah.
When you have a card that's like this, that's an actual comic cover, you can possibly get it signed, and then you hit it with the blue label, and you get a nice grade, and you match it with the comic. It's just something fun, Here's another one, Rohan. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. Actually, let me take it out of this baggie here. This is fun, and I think I gotta ask Fausto, hey man, I don't know if I can submit this to CGC. I think this is more of a PSA thing, but It's like a little mini comic book promo.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
I don't know if you see Doom in the corner and Silver Surfer here on the side.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's part of like a little four set, something fun. And again, something that doesn't break the bank. It's like they're probably like $6-7 a pop. They're kind of hard to find sealed sometimes, but something like that, like. And I mean, I think that this deserves. If I were to pop it out, since it looks like a comic, it deserves that blue label CGC. And I don't know what happened, but they kind of flipped the script on us here. And man, like without even like a year of it being like established, like it's a lot of people feel a lot of different ways. A lot of people transferred over their stuff to CGC, and then you find out, hey, like there's no more blue labels, so a lot of people feel pretty indifferent about it.
Yeah,
I think people just do what they want to do. It makes me so aggravated, like I do agree. Like I think I have my first card comic attachment there. I found you guys ever hear the Amalgam comics? Or Marvel and whatnot. The Dark Claw. I just
it's like the DC Marvel like crossover.
Yeah, so they made this guy called Dark Claw who was Wolverine and Batman combined. Yep. His name is Logan Wayne, and I thought it was a total ripoff. I didn't realize it was legitimate because it's a Marvel DC character, and I just found the comic this last weekend at the flea market. So now I got the two to match, and that's the only one I have to match. In that regard, I don't have like the ASM 129 from the first series of Marvel cards. I like to get that too graded. So, but that's my first one. But it's hard to do, and then they're going to take it away.
Well, you have till July 12th if you want to get a blue label on
okay. I thought this was like the last.
What was it? The 20th or the 12th?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it might be the 20th.
It's
coming soon.
July. It's in July. Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, it'll pretty much be over, like for sure.
It's too late for everybody. You already, if you're watching this, you can't do it.
Guys.
Yeah, if you're watching this, you missed the bus. Yeah.
But I hope that they keep the yellow label for like the private signings.
Yeah, that's actually a good question.
If they don't, we should hit a fuss on that one. If they don't keep the yellow label, then I'm done with CGC. Unfortunately, like for cards, obviously, like for comics, I don't really have much of another choice.
To go to.
They don't like to call it that, but it is a monopoly on the comic grading. Like,
well, not only that,
CGC is like the monopoly for.
Not only that, like, again, we saw it this last weekend with that DeJerkin variant for Ultimate Fallout 4. Did you guys see
the jerk off? Right.
The jerk off variant, yeah. The CGC 9.8 went for 33,000. No, 33,000, and then the CBCS 9.8 sold in the same auction for $10,000 less. Like, I just don't get how CBCS stays in business when the value prop is crazy.
The only benefit to CBCS is that their slabs are lifetime, right?
No, I don't think so.
I thought they were.
I don't think so.
I think they're airtight or something. You don't have to switch them out like you do CGC.
I don't know that. Maybe that's the case. I've never heard that though.
Not that anyone cares. No one's doing it because of that reason. But
aren't they even charging more? They're like charging more for CBCS now, right?
A little bit more, yeah. They're not slightly,
I don't know.
but still.
CGC just had a price raise too, so I don't know who could. It's the price of the price of grading, whatever the differences may be, is not worth the value drop that you get regardless. So.
I only have one CBCS. I have the Hobgoblin first appearance of it, and that's the only one I could find, in a higher grade when I got it. So,
yeah, I would not. In all reality, like that guy that bought the jerk-off variant with the CBCS, he very well likely is going to get it and send it straight to CGC, get it and up his value, right? Like, if you can find the book you want in a CBCS, I don't think you should be apprehensive about buying it.
But you have that. But Swaggle just did a pod on that or a video, and he talked about. He's like, well, it's a small risk. It's if you crack it and drop the damn thing when you crack it, you just went from a 9.8 down to like a 9.0, right? You just lost $10,000. So it is a high risk unless you're just doing it on some like $100 book or under $500. So.
I mean, listen, it's the same thing though with the 9.6, 9.8. CGC it could already be slabbed the 9.8. You crack it super clean, nothing happens to it. You do your thing and you resubmit and you get a different grader and they don't want to give you that 9.8 for that day. It's the same thing, like really.
Same thing, yeah. And also, JP, so you're aware, you can do a brand transfer with CGC. So they'll crack it for you, but it still doesn't guarantee that they won't damage it in the process. But they'll probably
so
be better at it.
My Hobgoblin one,
yeah.
and get
I will say though, I will say to be fair, like, you know, if CGC, if I'm a grader and, you know, you send me this like 9.6 CBCS, you know, I'm going to be like, well, shit, my brand's better, you know, so here's your 9.4, your new 9.4, you know.
Well, I'm assuming that those
they're not going to crack a 9.6 and be like, hey, let me give you this 9.8 now. Like, no way. I don't think, you know, it's a little biased.
I assume the person cracking it isn't the same person grading it. So, you know.
See, the thing of it is that the graders should be like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed shit, because they if they know enough, they're not going to, oh, I know this book's worth more than that, so I'm not going to give this guy, like Sergio's saying, I'm not going to give him that grade. I know this book. Like, if they're just not knowing, they're grading just, you know, based on parameters.
I'll even say like, you know, something with this too, though. Like, I feel like the sports card market, you know, kind of like affects some of like the, you know, for Marvel cards, because I can definitely tell you Marvel doesn't get a lot of love in like grading companies, you know. A lot of the older stuff, they're way harder on it than most stuff, and it's like, it's almost like they don't want to give you the 10 because they know that it would be the only one to exist, you know. And they know what that kind of does, and like, you know, it's just one of those things that you're kind of right. Like, there shouldn't be any kind of like information. Like, you shouldn't have access to census. You shouldn't know how many of these exist. It doesn't matter how many of these exist. Is it a 10 or is it not a 10? That's what matters, you know.
Yeah, it's like
jury.
You hear people.
You're not supposed to get information.
Yeah,
right?
It's like you hear those stories where people talk about, like, if you're sending, let's say you have 2 Ultimate Fallout 4s, you should never send them in the same submission, because then they'll like be harsher of it if there's 2 of them, and it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, if it's a 9.8, it's 9.8. If it's a 9.0, it's a 9.0. Like, whatever it is, like, that should be, but.
Yeah, like the submission that I just sent in, you know, like I kind of, you know, I have these certain sets of cards, and I'm like, no, like, I can't send 2 of these, you know, because it's two is one too many, you know, like, I have to send only 1, and then I'll be patient, wait, see how they grade, because like the specific card, like the 2007, 2008 gold borders, like so those, listen, nothing special, like, they're not expensive cards. A lot of people don't show a lot of love to them, but they are the hit of the set for that specific set. I've seen a couple people hit 9s, and I'm like, dude, that's like 30-70, you know, like 70-30 offset, like, you know, the gold border is like way offset. So if I can hit, I mean, I have a couple like good, well-centered ones and some big characters. If I could hit some like a nice 9, maybe a 10, you know, it'd be nice, because like those cards are very hard to gem 9.
Yeah, that's the rarity of it.
That's the rarity. It's not something, because you could buy the card raw for cheap, but if I hit a 10, like Venom gold border, that's, you know, that's gonna sell for a nice coin, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I'm not much of a grader, man. Like, I just picked up, like, again, I picked it up because I like the set, I like the color, I like the gold border situation, and it matched the card. And when I picked it up, it was with that intention, because obviously if not, I would have already sold it, you know. But it's still here with me, so.
Yeah.
All right, you bumped up and got rid of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I should say we're kind of crossing that 90-minute mark. We should probably wind this down here.
We always say an hour and we go a half hour over, because it's just too much fun to keep talking. You know?
Yeah, there you go.
Let me ask one last question. Are you a Darth Vader fan because you like Doom? Any connection between those two?
Yeah.
Is one a ripoff of the other one?
Oh, I mean, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but I think we all know the answer to that one.
Yes, I was just going to make sure.
No doubt about that.
I think that's where George Lucas got his inspiration, was from Dr. Doom. So.
You know, I'm sure he was reading some comics. That's all I'll say about that. But, you know, I am a big fan of Darth Vader. Like, I know, like right now, like the Mandalorian thing is like the hot wave, but I think Vader's like he's just classic, man. You know, like Vader's the one. So I like Darth Vader a lot. I used to own some Star Wars Legacy Darth Vader cards. I got rid of them. I just wasn't attached to them really. Like, I picked them up, and you know, they reached a good price. I sold them off, and that was like the one thing that I sold that there was like no attachment. It was just like, hey, you can have these cards. I don't even, you know, it'll make a Darth Vader collector happy, and it did. So Darth Vader, though, as far as like Star Wars, to me, like, he's the OG. Like, he's the main guy. So I'm a big fan of Vader. I did see. I think there's like a Delato image of like Vader and Doom fighting, and I think it's really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Remember we posted that? Yeah, I'll have to send it to you guys. That's a dope one.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool, actually. Yeah.
Little crossover.
Well, Sergio,
Nice.
thanks for coming on. This has been great.
Ron, thank you, brother. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Appreciate we'll have you on again, and appreciate having on everyone. Like, comment, subscribe. We like to get comments. Rohan likes to answer them all, and we appreciate it. We'll see everyone in the next show. Thanks again, Sergio.
Thank you, guys, man.
All right, guys. We will see you on the next show.